Let's talk about weight loss surgery, and particularly the two major weight loss surgeries that are being done in the United States, Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, which I'll refer to as gastric bypass, and sleeve gastrectomy, which I'll refer to as either a sleeve or a gastrectomy. Last year, about 200,000 major weight loss surgeries were done in the United States, divided in half between Roux-en-Y and sleeve gastrectomy. I'll tell you that I never get a call telling me how well the surgery went. It's always when there's a catastrophe. So I don't want you to be afraid of weight loss surgery, because when it works well, it is wonderful. But what I'd like to do is teach you a little bit about what the weight loss surgery entails, what the complications are, and what you might be able to do if a complication occurs. And in the end, if a complication has already occurred, I'm here for you to speak to you, to help you through the process, and know that a consultation with me is free. We never charge for that at all. Many people in the past have had a lap band placed. That was very popular a few years ago, but the doctors have learned that it really didn't give great weight loss surgery results and was causing a lot of discomfort. So many of the sleeve gastrectomies that are being done are conversions from the lap band to the sleeve. The purpose of a sleeve gastrectomy is to restrict the amount of food that you can take in at one time. As you know, when you swallow food, it goes down your gullet, what we call the esophagus, and then goes into your stomach where it is digested and then moves on to the small bowel. The purpose of a sleeve gastrectomy is to create a very narrow sleeve-like tube in the stomach so that most of the stomach no longer can take any food. The theory is that by taking in less, there'll be weight loss. And there's also some feeling that by creating this small sleeve, it does change the way that the stomach works to digest food, and that might contribute to weight loss as well. The way a sleeve gastrectomy is performed is typically minimally invasively, or what we call laparoscopically. So the procedure itself is one in which you'll probably only be in the hospital for a day or two. If everything goes well, you'll be sent home. You'll be on a diet for the rest of your life. They'll be watching your vitamins, and hopefully you'll lose a great deal of weight. Coming back to the surgery itself, the way the sleeve is created is by the use of a stapler. And the stapler cuts and staples the stomach tissue at the same time. And by doing that, it creates this long sleeve which excludes most of the stomach. One of the problems in sleeve gastrectomy is that because of its length, there is a very long staple line. And staples, like any mechanical device, can fail. And if there's an opening in the staple line, the contents of the stomach, even though you're not eating, can leak out. The stomach produces bile, the stomach produces acid, and if this material leaks out of the open staple line into your belly, it can cause a disastrous consequence. It can cause something called sepsis, it can cause your organs to fail, and eventually, if not properly treated, can cause death. So one of the things that we have to be aware of is what are the signs and the symptoms of a possible leak. Now, going back to what I said earlier about conversions of lap bands to sleeve gastrectomy, there's a technical issue that doctors talk about, and this is something that I think should be discussed with you at the time of the surgery between you and your doctor. The staple line is going to run from where your esophagus meets your stomach all the way down to where your small bowel meets your stomach. And in that area where the esophagus meets the stomach is often scar tissue. because the band has been pressing on that area for months or even years. And when the band presses on that tissue, scar tissue can develop. When the band is removed, the doctors are going to have to staple through that scarred tissue. And it's been found that more than 90% of the leaks occur in that area closest to where the esophagus is, where the band was. So you need to know that if you're going to have a band to sleeve conversion, the risk of leak is much higher than it would have been if you had never had a band and were having a sleeve gastrectomy as what the doctors call a primary procedure or primary surgery. Now, before I talk about the complications and the problems of a sleeve gastrectomy, let's go back and talk a little bit about the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. 10 years ago, almost all of the major surgeries were Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. And in a Roux-en-Y, it's really a two-step procedure. The first step is to create a small gastric pouch, similar to the sleeve gastrectomy, but not quite as long. The other part of the procedure is to do some reconnecting of your duodenum and what's called your jejunum, two parts of your small bowel. And the purpose of a Roux-en-Y is, number one, to restrict the amount of food you can eat because you're going to have a very small stomach, and two, change the metabolism of your stomach, the way it digests, the way it absorbs calories, so that you have two things working to lose weight: less food intake and a different way of absorbing calories. A sleeve gastrectomy uses one long staple line. A Roux-en-Y gastric bypass uses two staple lines, one to create the gastric pouch and one to create the reconnection. Just like in a sleeve gastrectomy, a Roux-en-Y can cause leakage. And when a Roux-en-Y leaks or a sleeve leaks, it really creates the same types of issues for the patient. One of the things that doctors are aware of, and you must be aware of too, is that when you are morbidly obese, when you carry extra weight, your body is going to react differently to a leak than a person who is of less weight. So one of the things that may happen to you is that you're not going to have as much belly pain as someone else might. So you may be feeling discomfort, you may be feeling only a bit of pain, but that might be important. It might be a sign that something is going wrong. You might develop pain in your shoulder, particularly in your left shoulder. You might become short of breath. You might feel that you're rapidly breathing. You may even feel that your heart rate is elevating, what doctors call tachycardia. If you develop any of these signs or symptoms in the hospital, or more importantly, when you get home, you cannot delay. You must call your doctor immediately. Or I would tell you, more importantly, get yourself to the emergency room, because time matters. The longer the leak goes on, the more likely that your body is going to react to it in a very bad way. And if you wind up being septic, that can cause your kidneys to fail. It can cause your other organs to fail and make you very, very sick and truly put you at risk for death. So when you're thinking about having this surgery, make sure that you sit down with your doctor and go over the potential complications in great detail. Make sure that you understand exactly what's being done, exactly what can go wrong, and what you should do if something does go wrong. When you leave the hospital, they're going to give you some papers. It's going to tell you if you have any pain or if you elevate your fever. If you start running a fever, come back to the emergency department. But I want you to know more than that. Even if you feel subtle changes, you don't quite feel right, that's a sign that you need to speak to your doctor or get to the emergency department. Minutes matter. Hours matter. Your life can be at stake.